What's up, everybody? I'm Scott,
And I'm Jason.
and you are listening to Liquid Carnage. My friend, this is the Battle of the Bulge in our fantasy league this week. One of them, I am playing my better half, and as we record this right before the Monday night doubleheader kickoff, she has me on a 20-point lead. So if I lose this week, I will never hear the end of it.
Yeah, I mean that in sometimes you get in these leagues and you just have to win the one game that means something because most of the time you're going to win, you're going to lose. It kind of goes with territory. But when you play against that one person that talks a lot of shit, then you got to beat
Yeah.
them.
You know, the thing is, I think I've had a pretty good stretch of fantasy football victories over the last 4 or 5 years. But with every dynasty comes some lean years. And I'm in the midst of that this year. I am, every call I think is the right call is blowing up in my face. I need to pull a Costanza and just do the opposite.
I'm actually doing badly this year as well, but I noticed that it's not necessarily because I'm not picking the wrong players. I'm just going up against powerhouses each week. I'm scoring good points. I've got a good team. They're just not. I'm going up against a better team that week, and so I'm finding that at least my decisions are the right decisions. They just don't make a difference.
Let's see, I'd rather be in that position than the position I'm in.
Yeah.
I mean, first week was a fluke. Actually, the first 2 weeks in one league was a fluke, in our dynasty league. But that league, right now, I've lost this week soundly for no reason other than I made poor choices.
Yeah, this week, that league I'm 0-3, and all three of my games I scored good points. I just ran up against someone who scored better points, and this week was no
Yeah.
exception. So I figure that's just, maybe it's a down year this year altogether. One of my friends in my money league was asking, hey, you've got a plethora of running backs. I've got Josh Allen available if you want to look at making a trade. And I was looking, I have Tony Pollard, who had a bad week. I have Bijan Robinson had a bad week. I've got AJ Dillon had a bad week. I mean, all of my running backs are just not doing well. It's like, I don't know what to trade you do. They're all kind of sucking right now. I don't know what to
Right.
do.
Well, whoever he wants to take for Josh Allen, maybe it's not a bad. If you
I
can
don't
get
think
AJ
he's
Dillon
going
for
to trade
Josh
Josh Allen now. I mean, I
yeah,
was
no,
hoping I'd get a good week out of some. Maybe Kyrie Williams will be my guy. I have him in that league, and maybe he'll be the guy that I can get to have a good week and then make a trade because at this point I don't know what to do. So
I get it, man. I get it. That's why you play the game. Any given Sunday, anybody can win.
that's right.
You know, it's funny when you start talking about fantasy football, and you know, our side note, our EP has been convinced that our dynasty league is a league that I've been rigged to win for years. I do want to point out at the time of this recording, I'm in last place and have the least amount of points scored in our league.
Oh man, you've had some injuries then too. Woo.
Yeah. I've hit hard times this year, but that's all right. We bounce back. We persevere. You play the game, and you play the game because for me, it's part of my mental wellness.
Well, yeah. In that case, then I mean that's when life is stressful as it is, and let's be honest, life right now, whether it's personal or social or financial, we have a lot of stresses, man, a lot of friggin' stresses. And
Mm-hmm.
you got to find ways to let that outlet go so that you can not just combust.
Yeah, you know, I think over the last 4 or 5 years, especially, you know, life's been very hectic in a lot of different ways, and I think a big release for me has been fantasy football in the fall. I think that to give me something else to think about for a while, to concentrate on, has been a huge help for me to be able to, you know, let off steam and really just sink my teeth into something different to take me away from life's little, you know, adventures here and there, you know.
And how important do you think that evolution has been? Because if you talk to our parents, the idea of mental health and relaxing and finding ways to decompress, that was like a foreign concept. You just didn't do that.
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, my parents do it now all the time because they're retired. And once they got into their late 40s, early 50s, they started doing it way more. But growing up, my brother and I were pretty much taught to work, you know, and I have a hard time taking time off now. And I know that's not the best thing, but I know that like mentally I need to exercise. I need to find a few minutes a week. I think that's why I cook so much too. It's that release. It's that I don't have to worry about work for a few minutes. I can just worry about this and be good.
Okay. Well, and I think that one thing I do like about the evolution of the workplace is that that has become so much more of an important issue about how to relax. How do we get our employees to take more time and use those vacation times
Yeah.
and take advantage of the EAPs that are out there where the employee assistant programs where you can get free counseling for someone and we made it more of a priority. I think because the studies show that people who have less stress do better, both mentally, physically, emotionally, in the workplace and in life.
Now the counterpoint that is though, I feel like I've been raised to run on stress.
Oh,
So
that you actually do better when you're a little stressed.
yeah, I feel like I feel more in, I don't want to say in control, but life for me feels like I have it, like I'm handling it better if I'm pressed a little bit and I'm stressed out about things coming instead of just not worrying about it and take it as it comes, you know?
So what are the symptoms in your body or in your mind when you get stressed? Like what kind of sensations do you feel?
I get anxiety, like for me, I get like that overwhelming feeling of just anxiety, like in my chest, like I can't sit still and I've got to find some kind of outlet with it. So I think it's for a long time. That's why I think it's where CrossFit came in handy because I was able to handle it a lot better um, by exercising to that 10th degree to where your body's ready to just drop. So you had to give yourself some time to relax
Yeah. Okay. That makes sense.
and
Yeah.
process it.
I've noticed that I get some, when I get stressed, I paralyze. I
Yeah.
don't move forward. I don't move backwards. I second guess my decision making. I don't know, what I'm doing. I don't know how to move forward or, move past it. And when I get really stressed, I've noticed that that's my, reaction to it is I freeze.
Yeah. I just learned to pivot. Like I learned to lean into it and figure out what's wrong and I pivot and I go. And that works in a lot of ways because a lot of my job used to be um, front facing with the public and the community. So you have to be able to pivot anyway. So it kind of went hand in hand. Um, now I have to adjust to be a little more controlled and thoughtful in how I handle my stress and my anxiety. Because my schedule doesn't always allow me to get to the gym or go do the things that help me rewind and relax.
What do you feel about personal health days?
I swear to myself I'm going to take one. And I'm going to start taking one every month, and it never fails. I never do.
Yeah, see, I've started to really appreciate the mental health days at my work. One because they give you an allotment of 50 or 40 hours of sick time.
Yeah,
So that's supposed to be used for doctor's appointments, if you're actually sick, whatever. But I find that if I've had a kind of a long week or long couple days, I'll just plan a sick day. Just say I'm going to take off today, and just do nothing or do a project at home or find something else to do just to relax myself. But I find them very beneficial. And I don't feel bad about taking them. Like I don't feel like there's a stigma because I think a lot of it is from before in the olden days is there was a stigma, like if you
yeah,
went to a psychiatrist or a psychologist, there was a stigma, a bad stigma of that where I think that's changing. That's really changing. And so when I say I'm taking a mental health day, I don't feel bad about it at all. In fact, I feel like it's more of a norm than it used to be.
yeah. I guess I don't call them mental health days anymore. Like usually, what I do is like I'll take a Friday off or a Monday off when I know everybody else is working or at school, just so I can have the house to myself. I just just call it taking the day off. Um, but for what I do right now, uh, I have to be careful because a lot of my job is predicated on site visits for potential incoming high level employees. So I have to host them when they're here. And a lot of those end up on Mondays or Fridays. So I can tentatively plan to take a day off, but if they put one on my calendar, I actually end up having to go to work one way or the other.
Oh, okay. So yeah. Do you find that that you need more or less mental health days when you add kids to the mix?
You probably need more.
Okay. You find it a little bit more stressful now than maybe 3 or 4 years ago?
I don't think it's more stress. I think you don't get as much time to yourself. So you have to figure out when and how um, you're going to take that time.
And with kids, it's harder because you just don't have the ability to, just up and go, like this weekend, for example, you guys could have come down to Phoenix for a show, but you just can't. You got kids. It doesn't work. You can't just up and go, and do something that might reduce your stress.
Yeah, and a lot of it's they need a lot of time and attention. I mean, at the end of the day, they're not legal adults, so someone's got to cart them around and do all the things. Um, it's a little more work. It's the best way to say it. It's a different kind of stress, you know. We have to go we had to go to a recital this weekend, um, that the youngest was in, and the oldest was supposed to get a haircut. Um,
Well,
I lost my whole train.
oh, I was going to say, yeah, I mean, I think that one of the questions I was going to ask you is, do you find a difference between a mental health issue and stress? Are they the same? Are they different? What are your thoughts?
I think they're different. I think stress and mental health are two very different things, but they're also very similar, if that makes sense.
Explain a little bit more, because they're different but the same is kind of hard for me to just
If you
in and
don't,
of itself.
if you don't handle your stress on the front end, it can turn into disorders on the back end.
The only reason why I ask is because I feel like a lot of people try to throw the idea of that, the issues with gun violence in America is because of mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
And I sometimes think, is it a mental health issue or is it a stress issue? Because mental health issues, to me, is a lot different. That's a diagnosed issue. Schizophrenia, multiple personality, bipolar. Those are mental health issues. Being stressed out when you're driving and you get that road rage because you're stressed out about your day and people driving crazy, and that's a lot different. And so I wonder, when they say mental health, if we're confusing mental health issues with just people being overloaded, stress, not knowing how to handle and have an outlet for their stress.
I think a lot of people throw them in the same bucket.
Do you
I think
think
a
that
lot.
they're the same?
I don't think they're the same at all.
Like
Um,
stress, for example. Like I know that with stress, we have the ability to manage that in our actions, in our
mhm.
activities, in our own self, right? We have ways that we can manage stress, and I feel like that those are the kind of things that more people are starting to say, you know what? Okay, I'm getting stressed out. I need just to manage my stress and get that back in line with a more calm life.
Yeah, I think I don't know because like I said earlier, like I tend to run a little bit more stressed out as it is, so I have a hard time distinguishing like what's stress versus what's normal.
When
So
you
I
go on
just
vacation, are you the type of person that can't just say, I'm going to spend 5 days and do absolutely nothing, right?
after about day two, I can. Like we went to Colorado this past summer. After about I think the second day of the work week. So like we got there on Friday night, but like by Tuesday we've already been there 4 days. I didn't care anymore about work. I was fine. Like I didn't have to worry about it. Everyone knew I was gone, so everything could wait or was being handled. So to me, it wasn't that big of a deal. Um, Things have changed since then to where I have to be more, uh, I don't want to say open, but I have to be more prevalent there. More, what's the word I'm looking for?
You have to be present.
I have to be present,
Okay.
more than anything else. And I can't pick and choose when I can be present. A lot of times I have to work on someone else's schedule with that. So that can be a little stressful trying to juggle schedules, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I'm finding it's a little bit easier for me to justify, you know what, I need to not do anything. I'll give you a perfect example. We went to Maine this last weekend for my daughter's wedding. She lives out in Augusta. Well, if you've ever been to Maine, I highly recommend it, but recognize that the state is a pretty large state land wise, but population wise, it's not very populated. So when you drive to the ocean to see a lighthouse, or if you drive to a little touristy city that's outside of one of the main cities, you drive 45 minutes in rural, in nature, there's nothing out there except every once in a while a house or two, but you're kind of in the middle of nowhere. But I found that just being in that kind of environment, it was a lot easier not to stress, not to worry about those things. Like I was like, oh, this is really relaxed. And, we didn't watch TV the entire weekend that we were there. We went to a lighthouse and walked around there for 2 or 3 hours, and we were out in the middle of nowhere, just looking at the leaves turning. And it was so easy for me to get de-stressed just by changing the environment from Phoenix to Maine.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And, I have that same ability with when I go down to Phoenix or just get out of town for a couple days. Cause sometimes that's all you need just to be able to de-stress.
Or maybe just get away from day in, day out life and make a little change, kind of an adventure.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes it's just what you need is that day trip. For us, it's to Las Vegas or down to Phoenix over to the mountains in Williams and Flagstaff, just to get away and be away. This time of year, I can literally immerse myself in college football and not think twice about it on Saturday. And I like that, but I know it's not necessarily the best thing I should be doing every Saturday, but it helps me with stress. It
Okay.
helps me appreciate, like, historically for me, October is a very busy month, and I didn't get to do that very often in October until later on in the evening, because of different events or fundraisers I had to go to, whatever else. And this is the first year in probably 15 years, I guess, since the pandemic, where I don't have to. I don't have to do any of those things. So I have more free time in my hand, which is quickly getting filled up with other things. But it's the one thing like I can do is sit and unwind. And I think I do that by I like to go to Chili's and sit there and watch football. I don't have to talk to anybody. I can have a Diet Coke or I can have a beer. It doesn't make a difference. I can sit there and just watch a game. And to me, that is stress free, fun.
I've gotten in the habit when I'm by myself and just want to relax, I get a cigar, I get a cocktail, whether it's a scotch or a whiskey, play some like vocal jazz radio or, smooth jazz radio, and just not do anything but just listen to music, smoke my cigar, maybe write a few letters or, write or do something else. And I just feel at calm. And I find it interesting though that I do things that are probably bad for me, right? Smoking cigars, drinking, those are bad things, but for whatever reason, it de-stresses me. It gets my mental state kind of in that, yeah, I'm feeling good now. I'm feeling good.
See, I do that with making sausages now.
Okay.
That's how I de-stress. I find peace in that process. To me, it's a very artisan thing to do. So I can help relieve my stress with it. And I think it's just kind of fun too. It takes your mind off everything else. And I was talking to a friend of mine a while back about what de-stresses them, and she was telling me that that's why she bakes, because baking is so exact and so scientific. You have to pay attention to that. Uh, Otherwise, you mess up whatever you're making. So it makes you concentrate on something else than the thing you're trying not to concentrate on.
Yeah, I found I was at this wedding, and, one of the things that kind of was different than any wedding I've been to in a long time is the majority of not only the wedding party, but the guests that were at the wedding were smoking weed. And,
Yeah.
usually you drink, you get blitz, you party, dance or whatever, but everyone was sitting around these big fire pits, just chill. And everyone was just relaxed. And I thought, wow, man, things have definitely changed because it was so like no one even cared, obviously because, marijuana doesn't have the same stigma as it used to, that they were using that to calm and enjoy and kind of release some of the mental anguish from, all the stress of putting the wedding together. And I thought, yeah, that's kind of cool. I mean, it's not something I feel comfortable doing at the wedding, but they were doing it and they seemed to have a really good time. So hopefully those kind of ways to de-stress and take away that stress will help in life, right? Because that's what we really need to do is we need to like find ways to do it. Because I don't know about you, but everyone is just so friggin' angry on TV and when you listen to the news, everyone's so angry and mad. And at some point you just kind of have to ask, wow, man, you're going to have a heart attack if you're not careful.
Yeah, and that's it, man. If that's what people want to do to de-stress, more power to you. To me, I feel like it gets to a certain age, like, God, it stinks. Eat it. Um, Eat it or drink it like an adult. You don't have to smoke it. You know, it's it's wild to me, but uh, to each their own. And however people want to de-stress. I mean, drinking alcohol is not much better. You said it. Um, Smoking cigars also not great. Making sausages not exactly a fantastic idea, but it's what we find the calm in.
Yeah, and I mean, and ultimately, there are so many internal stresses, external stresses that we deal with on a daily basis that sometimes I think we're just numb to. You know,
Yeah,
recently, we had a tragedy happen at work. A young woman, probably in her, I would say at the oldest was 35 years old. She was out at a go live at one of our new clinics and they came to pick her up and she was dead. She died in the night.
really.
Yeah. And I think they haven't really told us what it was, but I get the feeling that it sounds like it was um, a medical thing that happened. She either got a brain aneurysm or something happened cause she had complained about headaches the night before. And yeah, they found her dead in her room when they went to pick her up the next morning.
Really?
Yeah. And this girl was at the most 35, maybe. She probably was closer to 30, something like that. And you should have seen the room. I mean, we had all the IT department in the conference room and it was silent. And they actually brought in a grievance counselor grief counselor, to help people if they wanted to talk to someone. They said anyone who feels like they can't work here the rest of the day, just go home and you can work from home. I mean, they were like sensing the stress and I could tell that afterwards for about 3.5 hours, no one said a word in the office. It was so quiet. So you have those kind of stresses, work stresses, obviously, kids, getting bullied or getting not good grades, all these stresses that we don't even identify them as stresses, right? We just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah. The funny thing is, like, it takes a while to learn because Janice is going through this right now. Everyone handles stress differently, and she absorbs it and she adds on to it herself by just trying to like push the ball over the goal line herself instead of relying on the team. It's
Yeah.
she'll take on more responsibility to make sure it gets done the way she needs it to, which I appreciate. But I learned a long time ago. Uh, when I'm done with work for the day, I'm done with work for the day. Anything we do, nobody dies. If nobody dies, we're fine. It can wait till tomorrow. And it took me a long time to get to that level. When I was in banking in my previous life, I for sure thought I was going to be dead at 35 by the amount of stress they were putting on me, and I was carrying it the way I was carrying it. It was just not a healthy environment, and getting laid off was probably the best thing to ever happen to me. Looking back at it now, it wasn't great at the time, but um, I'm much happier now and much less stressed now than I ever was at the peak of that job.
Well, and you said something that a lot of people, including yourself, they actually do their best work when they're at that stress level, right? Where
Yeah.
they're constantly feeling that they're going to fall off the precipice. And some of these people do absolutely fantastic work, which helps to build the value that you put on yourself and others put on you by performing well at work. And so, balancing that, hey, if I get rid of the stress, then am I going to be as good at work? I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
See, to me, I run with that edge. And if I have that edge, from the stress, I feel like I'm doing all right. I feel like I'm doing fine, but I have to feel like I have that next level to shift into,
Right. Yeah. No, I'm exactly the opposite. I don't like being stressed because, um, I don't like being stressed because I paralyze. I get stopped. I stop moving. I stop doing anything because I'm overwhelmed. Which is odd to me because I've never, like, some people get really stressed about public speaking. You know what I mean? Like, oh my gosh, I have to talk in front of someone. That doesn't stress me at all. I love it. Like,
Yeah.
so everyone's stress is different anyways, like what causes them to stress. My stress is usually I'm unorganized. I don't have my ducks in a row. Well, that's self-imposed stress.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I put that stress on myself. So, I have to take ownership of that sometimes the stress I put myself under, that's under my control.
Yeah. I get that. Yeah. And you have to be able to, mitigate that stress. And that just comes with experience, just whenever you get the unknown in your profession or your life that you don't know quite how to navigate, that adds additional stressors to your life, but it takes a little bit of time to get around too. Makes sense.
Do you think that stress really does cause health issues?
Oh, absolutely.
You do.
Yeah.
In what
Yeah.
way? Like what do you mean?
Um,
Like, do you think that like you were saying about your bank job, that those stresses, because they were something that were shoved on you, that at some point you would have had health issues based on that stress?
oh, absolutely. Stress leads to heart attacks, strokes,
Yeah.
poor lifestyle, like through diet and exercise. Um, so, that's, to me, that's where it goes. That's where, if you don't handle that stress properly, that's how it can compound on you.
And who knows, maybe that's how we get some of these people that it's like, oh my gosh, they were such a young person at 52 years old and they just died of a heart attack. How is that possible? And then realize, oh, we don't know. Maybe they had so much stress going on in their life, their body just said, I can't handle this anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
That's it. Well, as we wrap up today's show, talking about stress on so many different levels, make sure that you're working on your mentals. Marshawn Lynch said it best, man. You got to fix your mentals. Make sure your mentals are right, because if you don't have that, man, your life goes to pot. No pun intended. But how do you handle your stress, man? We want to hit it. We want to find out. We want you to tell us. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, or Twitter, all at Liquid Carnage. If you have some new non-high ways to handle stress in the Denver metro area, our EP Tom is always looking for ideas. Hit him up on Instagram and the Twitter at liquid_EP.
One of the biggest lessons I ever learned from being in a relationship is everyone's stress level is different, and what causes stress is different. Never tell someone to relax when they're stressed.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Never say, hey, calm down, relax.
You don't have to be in a relationship to do that. You just,
well, I don't know. I learned
anybody.
It later in life because I didn't know it in my earlier days, hence why I didn't have very much success with relationships. So
that is fair. that is fair. Well, that being said, Jason, take us home.
Hey, thanks for listening, everybody. We really appreciate you listening to us. That was Scott. I am Jason. And as always, if you never know quite what